Welcome everyone to our second monthly meeting of PSoAR for Eureka Springs. I'm Dr. Lisa Roark, and I'm one of the chapter leaders here in Eureka Springs. I'd like to read just a little bit about PSoAR to everyone so you can understand our mission. Welcome everyone to today's event hosted by the Psychedelic Society of Arkansas, or PSoAR. Before we begin, we have a brief opening statement to set the container for our time together. Our mission at PSoAR: we are a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to psychedelic education, community building, and advocacy. We believe in the healing potential of these tools when used ethically and responsibly. No sourcing or sales. To protect our community and our organization, we maintain a strict policy against the sale, trade, and distribution of any illegal substances. We ask that you do not seek out or offer substances at this event. Anyone found violating this policy will be asked to leave. No medical advice. The information shared today is for educational and peer support purposes only. PSoAR does not provide medical or clinical advice. We are not a substitute for professional medical advice or treatment. We're here for risk reduction and personal responsibility. We advocate for risk reduction rather than harm reduction, as we believe these practices are inherently healing when approached with intention and safety. However, all individuals are responsible for their own choices, health, and legal standing. And very importantly, confidentiality. If we engage in any group sharing, this is confidential information, and we ask that you respect the privacy of everyone in this room. I don't expect that we're having any intense shares today, but it's always a good idea to remember that. I would also like to thank our state PSoAR board members. So we have Beth Day here today, our president. We have Joseph Hood as well. We have James Redmond. And then myself as well, all on the state board. So we have a pretty big representation today. I would also like to thank Dory and Robert Burgess, who own Red's Pizzeria, and just what a wonderful environment we get to sit in tonight and join with each other to learn about this wonderful world of mycelium. And next, I would like to introduce you to Ashley Hill. Ashley, anyone from Eureka Springs knows who Ashley is because he is absolutely the mushroom guy. Ashley's at every farmer's market. If you have a question about mushrooms, he's going to be the person you go to. And he has been so gracious in offering, or at least agreeing, to come and speak with us today and share just a little bit of his vast knowledge. So join me in welcoming Ashley.
Hi, everybody. Oh, here I am. I'm Ashley. Thank you for the introduction. So I was going to just kind of go over a basic cultivation of cubenji mushrooms. So there's just a few basic things. Anyone can really do it. There's like some substrate mix here. This is a roaster oven. So this is, so with growing mushrooms, you create the substrate, you create the medium for the mushrooms to grow on. And the cubenji mushrooms are dung loving. And so there's multiple recipes that you can use. One recipe that works is, so this is a coarse grade vermiculite. You can use it in, like, for planting. It's kind of like aerate the soil. And the coarse grade is kind of important. It kind of helps. You can get like a medium or a thin, but the coarse really helps with like the aeration of the substrate. And then you can use, this is excuse the mess, cocoa coir. So this also helps aerate the substrate. And then you use like some kind of manure, like a composted, like cow manure. And I don't have that here. But you would mix the substrate. So you would use like 6 quarts of this and then 6 quarts of this, just kind of dry, and then like 4 quarts of composted cow manure. And then you can add like some gypsum, which helps with like calcium and sulfur. It's kind of like a mineral that adds to the substrate. Also helps with like the pH. So that's kind of like the general, for this size tote here, like this is what we're gonna ultimately be growing the mushrooms in with that recipe. And then you would use, so these are like a turkey bag. So they're like heat, you can use it in a roaster oven, you'd put a turkey in it, but it's like, it's high temperature. So you would like mix all this substrate together, and then you would add water, like probably like 4 quarts. You would start with like 4 quarts. Like the goal is you would mix it in a tub, and you would like get it to a point where you squeeze it and it like kind of like barely drips out of your fingers. So there's not too much moisture, or there's not enough. So it just kind of barely like trickles out of your fingers and not like pours out. And that's field capacity. So that's kind of what you're looking for when you mix it all together. And then you put it in a bag, and then you kind of like zip tie it together. And then you'll put it in like this roaster oven. You'll turn it on high to get started. And this goes up to 400 degrees, but really, once you put the bag in there with the substrate and it's zip tied, you submerge it in water, and then you might like put like some heavy rocks on it to keep it down because it's going to try to float. So the idea is you want to get the core temperature of the substrate to like 180 degrees. So you want to pasteurize it. So pasteurizing is below sterilizing. So like I would say like 140 to 180 degrees is like the window. And like you want to get the core to about 160. So it'll take a number of hours. Maybe like 1 to 4 hours, maybe. And like you got this little temperature thing here. You can kind of like stick it in the center of the bag and just try to get the center until it's 160. And once that gets to 160, like you just, from that point, you just let it sit for like another hour. And so that's like, and then when that's done, you can turn it off, you can pull it out, like put it in like a clean tote so it stays kind of, clean in a clean space, and let it cool. It'll probably
overheat it at that point.
You can, if you go too high, it'll get to the point of sterilizing, but it would be like sterilizing. You can go at that temperature and sterilize, but it would take like 12 to 14 hours or something at that temperature. Or you can sterilize at higher temperature, like 250 degrees, which would be like a pressure cooker. Like, so that builds pressure so it gets hotter. So once you're at 15 psi or 250 degrees, then that you can sterilize in an hour. And the difference between sterilizing and pasteurizing is basically sterilizing like kills everything, like all the good, beneficial and harmful, like any mold spore, any bacteria, any virus that's in the substrate or in the compost or the manure, it just gets wiped out. With pasteurizing, it's lower temperature, so it leaves some beneficial bacteria, which actually kind of helps the mycelium. Like it'll ward off anything that like say we sterilize it or pasteurize it, and then we open it to the air, like there's stuff everywhere, mold, bacteria, in an instant, like something will land on it, and like the pasteurization will kind of like give it a window, like a 10 to 14 day window for the whatever you put in there to grow first without competition. So yeah, after you get that and it's cooled, then you have your container here. And I'll just pull out a few things. So this is a spawn. This is rye berries, sterilized rye berries. And this is actually a King Stropharia strain, which is just a wild, it's a garden mushroom. It grows well in gardens. But this, you would make your spawn similar to this. And I'll go over that in a minute. But so these are just some things. This is a petri dish. I don't know if you guys are familiar with petri dishes and agar. So it's basically like an algae, gelatinous, nutritive substance. You sterilize it, and then you add the mushroom onto it. You can either add spores, or you can put like a clone of a mushroom. So you can like wild harvest a mushroom or just have a mushroom, and you can kind of like break it apart, and like in a sterile environment, take a little piece and put it on here, and it'll grow into that. And so this is actually a pink oyster. This is a liquid culture, and I'll go over that in a minute. So this is a light here. So mushrooms, some mushrooms don't like light. Everyone like the button mushrooms, but most mushrooms do like light to fruit. Like it helps them initiate the fruiting. So like the triggers to fruiting would be like when the mycelium's growing and there's no more food. It's like, oh, I want a fruit. That's the first trigger I would say. And then like fresh air, it would be another trigger, and light. So it kind of like grows to the edge of the tree or the edge of the soil, sees light, sees fresh air. Those are triggers. Also like cooler temperatures. Because like when mushrooms are growing, like they're spawning, they are generating a lot of heat. And when they're done spawning, like the cooler temperatures would be another trigger for fruiting. Yeah. So here's some liquid culture media. I'll just jump to the growing part. Well, actually, no, I'm going to go back. Excuse me, jumping all over the place here. So if you're wanting to start to grow, typically you would want whatever mushroom you want to grow. So you would order like a spore or like a liquid culture, or you would order a culture, a petri dish. And from those, you could grow the mushroom. A good method that we found was a liquid culture. So this is just you can get it. It's just a liquid culture premix. And basically you can use honey, you can use agave. This is a malt dextrose liquid culture premix, which is basically like sugar, corn sugar, and like a barley, I think is the malt. And it's a nutritive powder that you would mix with water. You would put it in here, and you would it'd be evenly distributed, and you would sterilize it in a pressure cooker for like 15 minutes. And the instructions are on anything you get will give you the instructions on how to do it. You bring it to 15 PSI and you sterilize it for like 15-20 minutes. And then you have this nutritive liquid. And so from this, like if you don't have a lab with like a flow hood, I don't know if you guys know what a flow hood is. It's basically a big giant filter, like 6 inches thick. And you put this in a box and a fan on it. And so the fan like sucks all the particulates in the room into the fan and to the back of the filter. And so then it blows like a slow, steady stream of air out this way. So you can open up a petri dish. You can open up a liquid culture. You can open up this grain jar and it won't get contaminated. But that's like lab conditions, and they can be pretty expensive. So there's other ways to do it without that. What what I would recommend would be doing a liquid culture, like ordering like some type of syringe, like it's either a spore syringe or it's a liquid culture syringe. And it's basically, so this is a chestnut. And so in there is just like little fragments of mycelium. And so you just kind of shake it up. And in order to do this in a non-sterile environment, I would do it in a clean place as possible with like as little air moving around, like somewhere clean all the surfaces. And you can just like pull this off here, and you'd want to like take a lighter and just kind of like sterilize the needle until you'll see it get bright red, bright orange. And then from that point, you'll like clean this, just spray it with like a rubbing alcohol. And when it's hot, then you can just kind of like, I always squirt a little bit out first after I heat it because it's hot and it'll cool down the needle. And then I just put it in there and you just squirt. It just takes a little bit. And then that will create your liquid culture. And so there's also a thing, and then you just kind of like shake it like once a day or every other day. And you'll notice the mycelium just like growing real thick. And when it's real thick, from that point, you can get what's going to be your spawn. You can use rye berries, you can use wheat berries, you can use millet. Really any kind of like hard shelled berry is good. Like rice is kind of it'll work, but it's a little soft, like it gets mushy. The idea is like when the mycelium's like growing through it, like it fully colonizes, but then you shake it up and each kernel breaks up real evenly. So then when you like add this to your fruiting substrate, each one of those kernels is an inoculation point. So each one of those kernels will spread throughout whatever you put this in. And so and also it adds nutrition too, like, because it's like a real nutrient dense. And so it'll help with the final product. And so you start from your mushroom or your spore, you put it on a petri dish or a liquid culture, create your liquid culture. From there, you would want to get, like, if you don't have a lab, you would want to get like another like sterile one of these, and you can just kind of do the same process. You stick it in there and you like draw it out. You get some of the mycelium. And then this has a different lid. I would use one of these lid systems. So this is basically a self-healing port with a hole in the middle. So when you stick a needle and pull it out, it self-heals. So nothing can get in and out. And this is basically an air filter. So it will allow it to breathe, and it will also not allow contamination to get in. Because mushrooms are the same as us, or they breathe the same. They breathe out carbon dioxide and they breathe in oxygen. But so it's necessary to have a breathing hole.
Do you make those lids or do you buy them like that?
You can buy these and they're already drilled. I would recommend that because like when you do it yourself, like you have to get the perfect size drill bit, and it's tricky because like this is one we did and it pops in and out, and we had to like tape it with silver tape. So if you buy them pre-made, that's better.
I have a question, actually.
Sure.
Are those breather holes, are those autoclavable?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Repeat the question.
I was asking if the breather holes with the filter was autoclavable. I think you put foil over it, don't you, when you put it in?
Yeah, you put foil over it, and it just helps it like stay sterile when you pull it out. And it also helps like water not drip in. And an autoclave is the same thing as a pressure cooker. And so you'll be dealing with probably just a small pressure cooker. And so from that point, then you inoculate your grain, and then you'll watch it kind of grow. And if you look, I can pass this around. Like you can see like on the bottom where it's not fully colonized. So it's like this one's still growing. So if you guys want,
So you wait till it's 100%
yeah,
colonized before you.
yeah. So when it's 100%, then it's ready to go to the next stage. And the next stage would be, so you're ready to fruit. So you got your bag, you pasteurized it. It's ready. It's cooled overnight. You have your bin, and I'll just go over like what this is. So this is called a monotub. You can look it up online. It's just a design someone came up with, which basically creates its own fresh air exchange. So like a thing with mushrooms when they're fruiting, when they're spawning, when they're growing like that, they create a lot of CO2. They don't need a lot of fresh oxygen. Like they're under the ground, they're in the tree. They're just, like they don't need a lot of fresh air. But when they're fruiting, they like the fresh air. So this is designed to, with the bigger holes up top and all these lower holes here, to create like a draw. So it like sucks air in and like blows it out. So it's like creating this fresh air exchange. Like whoever came up with this design did a good job. And so you make the substrate like just below these lines. And so like the surface is here. So all these little pinheads will come up and it's like creating this perfect, you get, the air in, air out, and it keeps it humid too. So like being in the bin once it's done. So you really don't even need to like mist it or do anything like once it's in here. But before that, so you have your turkey bag full of substrate. Like you can just use like a black garbage bag, just standard size, big enough to come above the lines here. So you'll clean this really good with alcohol, like rubbing alcohol, because you want it to be as sterile as possible. Again, you didn't sterilize, so it doesn't need to be 100%, but you want it to be really clean. So you put the plastic bag in, and then like you take the substrate and you just kind of like dump it in there, and it's in there. And then you take your spawn jar, say this is some strain, Cubensi. 2 of these for one of this size is the proper amount. So you would break it all up if it's the grain, and then you just kind of like dump them in there, 2 of them. And of course you'd want to be, follow proper sterile technique, be clean clothes, clean hands. If you want to wear a mask, you can. Rubber gloves are good. If you don't want to wear a mask, you just don't breathe over it or talk over it. And so you get the grain and the substrate in there, and then you just kind of mix it up like real even. Like you try to get in all the corners, just mix it up real even, and then you like smooth it out real flat. And then once it's flat, you get a piece of foil and you put the foil over the top, maybe just 1 layer of foil so it totally covers it. And then you'll like slice in some lines so it can breathe. So there, at that point, foil's on, holes are cut, the substrate and the spawn's in there. You can put the lid on it.
What does the foil do?
It keeps it like a layer of protection from contamination, also the darkness and maybe heat and moisture, keeps all that in there. And foil is actually sterile. Like the way it's made, it's like comes out really hot, so it's like pretty sterile. So you don't have to worry about that. So then you set it, and then pretty much 10 days later, you can come back and you can peel the foil up, and it's going to be like a solid white. If there's contamination, you'll see.
What would that look like?
Usually green. Like you usually see like green mold, but you can see all different layers of contamination. I mean, one thing would be like a smell. Like if it smells kind of sour, then that's probably like a bacteria. And the mushrooms can grow through that, but they're not going to grow very well. And the mushrooms can grow around the mold, but it's not going to be as much. So 10 days, like you'll peel the foil off, and then there'll be like overhanging black garbage bag, like over these holes. you go in there like clean, of course, and you cut the plastic like just below these holes, like on the inside. You see, just like, so all that's left now is the white substrate, and then these holes are exposed. But before that, I forgot to mention, like, you'll get some kind of, like, you can use like an athletic tape, you know, like, it's that white tape you can get at the dollar store. It's like, it's breathable. You can kind of blow through it a little bit, and you use it for like covering a bandage or something. So you can tape all the way around there so it breathes, but it keeps contaminants out. And then you can put it over here too, or you can just get like that white stuffing that's in that jar that's being passed around, like a white pillowcase. Yeah. Like something like that. You can stuff that in here. So it still allows it to breathe, but it keeps the contaminants out. And so, yeah, 10 days, you open it, put the lid back on, and then you just sit because you don't have to mist it because it's got the moisture in it. It's got the fresh air exchange. Pretty much maybe like another 10 to 14 days, you'll start seeing little pinheads or mushroom heads. You might see them all over. You might see a few. And then usually once you start seeing the pinheads, like another week, they're done. And so like they might mature at different times. So like as they're growing, like, you know, like when the caps like kind of unveil, like ideally you get them a little before they're totally unveiled. Cause like then like if they go too far, they'll just like shoot spores everywhere. Like the whole container will be black, which is fine. They're still good. But, yeah, and then like as you harvest it, like you harvest the whole band eventually and just keep, you know, it'll keep growing. Like the cake, the substrate cake will just start shrinking because it's using a lot of the water. But they'll just keep growing. Each flush will be less and less. But like by the time it's like used up most of the water, you might start to see contamination. Hopefully you can get 3 or 4 flushes out of it. Sometimes you can only get 1. Sometimes you don't get any. But that's basically the process.
So after each flush, do you rehydrate it all?
You don't really need to. Yeah, like you could after like the 3rd or 4th flush, you could take the cake and you could dunk it in some like distilled water or something, and then you'd probably get more. But if you can do that without getting more contamination, that's, you know, there's a higher chance of getting contamination after, you know, like a few flushes. But yeah. And this is one thing. This is just a light that I brought. So regular daylight spectrum is like the spectrum that they like to grow with. They don't like direct sunlight. So if it's like in a room with indirect, or like this is just a bulb, it's an LED, but any kind of bulb at like a daylight spectrum, which is temperature wise, it's like 6,500 Kelvin. That's the temperature. That's ideal for mushroom growing. Yeah, so that's the gist of it. Does anybody have any questions?
Does your technique have a name?
This is a monotub, so I think it's like a monotub method. That's kind of like where I learned it. I just kind of followed someone's recipe, and there's lots of different kind of ways and methods, but this way is the way that I found that has worked, and it works pretty well. Like, yeah.
To the substrate that's filling this, and you open up and cut the black plastic.
Yeah.
Was the plastic previously like folded over the aluminum?
Yeah, it was just,
See the foil?
it was kind of partly overhanging. You
But
could,
inside the rim, right? Like over there.
correct, inside the band, yeah. Mhm.
And when you cut the plastic off, do you remove the foil at that time?
Yes. Yep.
Any kind of casing to the top or scrunch it up?
You can, depending on what strain you're growing, you can add a casing layer. And a casing, yeah, like a cocoa, and a casing layer is basically like a non-nutritive layer that you would add to the top, and the mycelium will grow through that. And that kind of does, I haven't worked too much with casing layers, but it creates like kind of a protection. Like you can get more flushes if it works good.
How do you sterilize that? Because it's dry, right? It's like a dry layer.
You know,
boil water and put it in a cooler or something and leave it overnight. Let it cool down to room temperature.
Yeah, again, like I haven't worked too much with casing layers, so I don't remember exactly.
Ashley, doesn't the aluminum foil method basically do the same thing as a casing layer already?
It is, yeah, it's like a protection layer, but they say with casing layers you can get some more flushes out of it. Not any more yield, but it might keep it contaminant free longer. John?
I was going to say, with a wet casing, it just grows.
Okay.
Casing.
Yeah.
It takes out spores really well and doesn't really seem to bother the material in city.
Nice. Yep. Yeah, peroxide works really well. Like sometimes like even like if you're gonna clone a mushroom in the wild, like you're gonna get probably some contamination with on a petri dish, but you can like dip it in a peroxide and that will kinda
Dip the actual piece of the mushroom.
Yeah.
Petri dish.
Yeah, you could just like kind of clean it a little bit with the peroxide and then you can open it up and get a piece of ideally you get a piece of the mushroom that's like hasn't touched the air.
Inside.
But some mushrooms are super thin, like a morel. Like they're hard to get a good clone.
So what if you have spores on just a Q-tip? How would you turn that into a liquid culture?
So spores, you could just do spore to a liquid culture, but I would put it on a petri dish first to get all the contaminants out of it. So what you would do is like you would make the petri dish with agar, and then you would want to do this in a sterile environment or with like a glove box. I don't know if you guys know what a glove box is. It's basically a bin. You cut a couple holes in it, and then you can like glue gloves. So you can like stick your hands into gloves, and you can like work in there, and you can like spray it with some kind of air cleaner. Some people use Lysol. I don't use Lysol, but there's probably just cleaning it really well and then working in there. If you don't have a flow hood. But like you would open it up and you would just dab the spore on the agar. You would close it. And then this is like I forget what this is called. Antonio, you remember what this clear stuff is called?
Micro tape is a micropore tape or something?
Parafilm, yeah. Yeah, see this parafilm's kind of stretchy. So you stretch it around so that way it seals it. So I can have this out here and it's not gonna, cause there would be a crack in here and it would get contamination.
Isn't that just like grafting tape almost?
Could be, yeah. Yeah. But yeah, so you just put it on there and then you'll just watch it grow. But the thing with spores is like there's thousands of spores, and in order to create a strain, it's kind of like seeds, like two of them need to mate and to create a mycelial, like a strain of mushrooms. So there's going to be like hundreds or thousands of strains that mate and start growing. And so to find, they call it like a monoculture. So if you want a single strain from a sample of spores, like you'll put it on the petri and then you'll watch it grow. Like you'll see different types of mycelium. Like there's rhizomorphic that's real like, and then there's white fluffy. And you'll just kind of like follow one that you want to follow. Just use your intuition because you don't know until you follow it till the fruiting. So you follow the one and then you put it on a new petri dish, and then there's going to still be a lot of strains. And then you let it kind of grow out because it's like they'll grow out in different ways. Like they all grow like 360 degrees, like in a circle. And so you just keep following one until you, like maybe 6 or 7 petri dishes down later, like it will be growing very evenly. And it looks like, oh, that looks like a single strain. And then you do it like 2 or 3 more times.
So is it with every spore? Is that every time you have spores? Or?
If you want a single monoculture, if you want to single out a strain, yes. But you could do just like a liquid, like you could like, do a spore liquid culture, and you're going to pour from that, you're going to make the grain, and there's going to be a bunch of strains in there. And from that, you pour it in here, and then you're going to get mushrooms, but there's going to be, every mushroom's going to be different, which is kind of cool. Cause like, then you can be like, oh, that one looks really fun. and you can try that one. And then you can take a clone of that one. And you're like, oh, I know what this one's like. You could try that one, and that one might be different. So it's like...
Take a clone from the wild if you're wanting.
If you want that strain, yeah. Yeah.
When you put the paraffin on the petri dish, doesn't that stop any air circulation?
Technically, yes. But, like, in this stage, it's so close to the source, there it's not growing.
There.
Yeah, that it can maintain enough. And these you can store in the fridge. You would want to store them in the fridge, and they'll last for years. Like, they say, like, you want to renew it maybe once a year. Like, keep it in the fridge next year. Take a little wedge of it, just with a sterile blade, put it on a new petri dish, and then it's, like, revitalized. But, like, I've had 5-year-old petri dishes that are still... But they do slow down, so it is... When you want to reuse them, you want to put it on a new petri dish and then move forward with that.
So the petri dish goes into your syringe, right? And then, like,
The-
how do you get...
The petri dish would go into a liquid culture, yeah. And then the liquid culture, yeah, syringe.
So you've spoken a lot about pasteurization and sterilization to protect the mushrooms, the mycelium. What about any harms from breathing in spores or protecting ourselves?
Yeah, so depending on like how much you're growing, where you're growing, like if it was in this container, like ideally you'd harvest it before they spore too much. So you're not going to get too many spores that it's going to be too bad. And this is very small. This thing could be black if you've missed like a couple of days and everything's black, but it's going to be mostly contained in here. If you're growing a lot of mushrooms, like we do, like we grow commercially indoors, there's a lot of spores, but we have like ventilation that's constantly going and sucking spores out of the building. It probably would be good to like wear a respirator in like a huge commercial mushroom growing facility, because too many spores is probably not good for you. Yeah. Any other questions?
The recipe, 6 vermiculite, 6 cocoa, 4 shit.
Yep.
That's into 1 turkey bag.
Yep.
That'll fit 1, and is it 1 turkey bag per bean?
Yep. And then the water, which would be like 4 to 5 quarts, and then handful of gypsum. Yeah, like 3 cups is, you can use up to 3 cups of gypsum.
Test the pH before you.
Ideally, yes, and I don't know the perfect pH that you're looking for unless I looked it up, but I just kind of I've gone with it and it's worked. With the gypsum kind of like helps with the pH and yeah.
What about temperature? Do they need a cooler temperature when they're...
Temperature? With this process, with these mushrooms, like also depending on the strain, like but most cubensi is like 70 degrees. You can keep it 70.
Even when fruiting?
Even when fruiting, yeah.
Is too much heat a problem?
Yep.
When it's 9 days?
Yep. Yeah, they wouldn't grow. It might stunt them. It would hurt them. 90 degrees is pretty hot for these. Yep. And then like a little airflow in the room might help too, like a fan,
Do you, for humidity, like, how do you know when to add water, when to mist?
So these containers kind of create the right amount of humidity, so usually you don't have to worry about it. But what you will see, which is a good sign, is like when you pull off that foil, it's like you'll see like white little droplets, like a morning dew. Like that's really good. Like if you see that, and then like throughout the growing, like if you keep seeing that, like that's good too. Like you'll notice it dry and then kind of come back. Like that's kind of ideal. Because you don't want water to be on there all the time, especially when the mushrooms are growing. Like if mushrooms are on wet the whole time, then they'll just start to go bad. Or like I've even seen mushrooms grow on top of mushrooms because there's water, and the mycelium starts reactivates and grows mushrooms on top of mushrooms from being too moist.
So I'm a little bit confused. So is the foil just during that colonization phase, and then once you take it away, it's done? If you don't put it back.
Correct. Yep.
Not even during the second or third flush, or when you reflush them, you just put
Yeah.
them and
Yep.
does its thing.
Yep. Once it's open, then it's fruiting. It'll do its thing, and
That whole jar of the grainberries,
uh-huh.
half-gallon.
Yeah, that's a half gallon. So 2 half-gallons will work for that recipe.
Oh, 2?
Yes.
Oh, shoot.
Yep. You probably don't need that much, but it's good to use more than less because you want it to fully colonize in 10 days. If it's not, then something else is going to get in there. And so you want it
What's
more inoculation point.
of liquid culture for
So like I would say we use for one of those jars, for 2 of those jars, I use like half a cup. So, yeah, like a quarter of a line here. Just like a little, but you want to shake it real good, liquid culture, and then, I guess, and then,
how much
yeah.
in the
So it would be, let's see here. So 500, 750, 125. So like 60 or 70 milliliters.
Is that like a milliliter per pound or something like that?
This is, I'm not sure the actual ratio. This is a 10. But there's bigger ones that are 30. So you can get bigger ones. I'll just do like 30 would probably be fine for these jars, I would say. Yeah.
When you buy a syringe culture single monostrain.
If it says liquid culture, it's probably a single strain. If it says spores, it's probably a spore. And you'll be able to look at it, and it's like the spores are like blackish usually.
And if it's a monostrain, you can skip your agar.
Yep. Yeah, you can go straight to liquid culture. Yeah. So that's ideal. And most of the time, if you get a monoculture, if you get one of those, it's already tested. So it's like probably something that works well. Like grown to fruit. Yeah.
In California, it was very difficult to have the mail not intercept those orders.
Ah.
Is it a problem here?
I think spores are probably safer because you can have spores legally if you're using them from my knowledge. I could be wrong. I haven't done all the research, but like spores you have for scientific purposes. Like you can like look under a microscope, but like once you grow them into like fruit, then that's
I've been a liquid culture since, but
yeah. I think you can get liquid cultures. Yeah, it's been a while. Yeah.
Tell us what you like to do, like how you like to harvest, how you like to store them after you harvest. Do you like to dry? How do you go about drying them? How long do they last? Can you talk about?
Sure. Yeah, so I like to harvest them when when the caps are still kind of like over. When the veil just breaks, like that's perfect timing. But you're not, unless you probably will. If this is the first time you grow, you'll be there like watching every veil break because it's so exciting.
so can you cut each one as the bell breaks, or should you wait and then do them all at once?
You could, but you'd be sitting there all day. So it'd be fun. But you'd probably want to harvest like once or like in the morning, maybe in the midday, and maybe in the end of the day. So if one goes over, it's fine. It's not hard. It's not bad, but So yeah, you just harvest them and then you kind of clean the substrate off the bottom, and then you can like air dry them for like a day or two, and then you can like put them on a dehydrator, or you can just like put them straight onto a dehydrator. Typically like 118 degrees and below is I think best temperature, so it doesn't like, well, I know it's like for food, like below that temperature doesn't take as much nutrients away. So I guess I'm not sure what it does to psilocybin, but below that temperature, dehydrate it till it's like crispy. You want all the moisture out. And then you can, if you're going to store them for long term, like you would like maybe with a desiccant packet and vacuum seal it, like that would be ideal. Or you can just desiccant pack it and just put it in a Ziploc and just keep it in a dry, cool place. And they'll stay good for, a year or 2 or 3, but the potency and the quality might drop, especially if they re-moisten, which they can. Like if it's in a Ziploc, if you have them for longer than a year, there's a good chance that they're going to be a little soft. But they'd still probably be good. But ideally, though, fresh is best if you can, because it's like you're not only getting the psilocybin, but you're getting the psilocin, which is like another component of the mushroom that is medicinal that you don't get once you dry it. That kind of goes away.
Oh, it's like fresh pick.
Yeah.
It's great.
Any other questions? Yeah. Well, that's fun. Thank you.